Amrita, a lot of people talk about what to do in your resumes, but only a few talk about what not to do in their resume, right? So I'm glad you asked that question. One thing I would definitely say to not do in the resume is to make it for all the profiles. That means if you're applying to more than one role, don't have just one common resume for all the roles that you're applying. Make sure that your resume caters to one specific need so that there are proper keywords, there are proper experiences and bullet points, right? Completely rely on these third-party tools and applications who talk about your resume score. Because see now, the third-party tools that we're talking about who gives us that score is an outsider to the company. They're not an integrated platform to the company's ATS system, or they don't know the recruiter. They don't know the hiring team. They don't know what role we're talking about, right? For freshers, if they are now entering in this market 2024, 2025, the first thing would definitely be to identify what is that they're offering. That means what are their skills and where do they fit the best, right? Because a lot of freshers, a lot of early career professionals that I speak with, they're like, we just want a job. We can do A, we can do B, we can do C. But then you know that you can do A, B, C. But then when you put all of that into the resume, recruiters don't know what do you want from them. What do you want from this company? What do you want from this role, right?
Hello, Shreya. Welcome to our podcast. First of all, thank you so much for joining us today. For our audience, Shreya is an amazing career coach. And in today's podcast, we're going to focus on career guidance. We'll deep dive and talk more about like networking, resume building, interview tips, and so on. So, Shreya, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to our audience?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Amrita, for having me at your podcast. I'm super excited to talk about everything that you just said. Let me introduce myself. Hi, everybody. My name is Coach Shreya Mehta. I've been a coach for over 12 plus years. And in the last 7 years, I've been a recruiter with amazing companies like Microsoft, Amazon, TikTok, and Uber. And currently, I have co-founded a company named The Super Coach, where we work with a lot of Indian professionals for their job search. I've been a trading spouse. I came in US 8 years ago, and I observed that all of us need some kind of guidance to get into the US market, and I've been on both sides of this crazy market that we call for job seekers, right? I mean, it's always changing. And I've been on the recruiting side, hiring side, and on the job search side as well. And I've tackled visa, H1, F1, H4. I've been all the visas, Amrita, like you name it, and I know about it, right? So I like bringing all this information. I like working with these people on their resume, their LinkedIn, networking, what makes them the star candidate. And that's everything that we're bringing for them today. So I'm super excited for the conversation.
Thank you so much, Shreya. I'm very excited because I am not a career guidance coach like you, but I have been guiding a lot of folks, in my professional journey. And I'm sure this podcast is going to be useful to a lot of candidates like who I've been talking to. And trust me, guys, stay tuned. We're going to focus on very interesting topic in today's podcast.
Super exciting.
So, Shreya, in your experience, how you have come across, you have seen people making mistakes in their resume, like what are the top things which comes to your mind, like when you see people's resume, and how can you suggest them to avoid those mistakes?
Yeah, and I think that's a great question. Amrita, a lot of people talk about what to do in your resumes, but only a few talk about what not to do in their resume, right? So I'm glad you asked that question. One thing I would definitely say to not do in the resume is to make it for all the profiles. That means if you're applying to more than one role, don't have just one common resume for all the roles that you're applying. Make sure that your resume caters to one specific need so that there are proper keywords, there are proper experiences and bullet points, right? Second is no personal information is needed in your resume. I see a lot of people writing their whole addresses, sometimes their PIN codes, their their age, their birth year, their parents' name. All of these things are not required until specifically asked in the job description for multiple reasons, right? Third, and the most important would be just writing unnecessary information which is not directly or in fact indirectly related to the work that you are now looking for. So if I'm looking for a data analyst, I would not put anything which is directly or indirectly related or not related to, me being a data scientist or a data analyst. These are the three major mistakes that I've seen people doing it. And it takes a lot of energy for the recruiter, for the interviewer to select these things or eliminate those things, and then look at things that are important, right? So I would say these three mistakes people should absolutely avoid.
Absolutely. And Shreya, like you did talk about like, tailor-made resume. Could you highlight more on that? Because I see a lot of people, like you said, like, you cannot use one standard template, for all the job application. So if you could highlight more on that, but I think most of the folks do that mistake usually.
Yeah, absolutely. So if when I say that you should have one primary resume, what do I mean is if you're tailoring it to one specific role, that means data scientist, data engineer, data analyst for that matter, all three of these roles have some overlap, but then they definitely have some specific keywords also, right? So if you're trying to fit all these three profiles into one resume, you would definitely miss out on important keywords. And then as a recruiter, as an interviewer, I would not know which profile do you want actually to highlight in your resume, right? I don't know which role should I call you for and what are you open for. So now you'll become like a jack of all trades, but then you would not become you'd not become a master of any, right? And in this job market, you definitely need to show yourself as an expert, show that authority and credibility. So I would say when I'm saying that have one primary resume is what I mean. Make sure that it tailors to that industry, to those keywords, and to those experiences and projects as well.
Awesome. That's really useful tips. So, Shreya, I have another question for you just to
Yeah.
follow up on that. Like, for example, if I want to apply for finance analyst role, so you mean to say our role, our job description should be mostly focused on finance analyst role, not on other areas. If we want to, we shouldn't highlight too much on those areas, right?
Yes, absolutely. So if you have a primary role in your mind, so definitely your resume should speak out of that individually. So think that way, Amrita. You are not in the room when a recruiter is reading that, correct? Now, your resume represents you. It's just representing you there in front of a recruiter. Now, it's on you. What do you want the recruiter to read? Do you want them to read that you're a financial analyst, or do you want to read that you can be anything that the company wants you to be, right? If you want to be anything that your company wants you to be, then you're not a star candidate. You would not be their first preference. But if you are showing that you're a financial analyst and you have all the keywords, you have all the experiences or projects that they might be looking at, or all the skills that they might be looking at, then you'll be the star candidate that they would want to call. But if you have transferable skills, I'm not denying that you should and you can show that in your resume. But again, those transferable skills should again add to your skills of being a financial analyst.
Awesome. Coming to that point, Shreya, you talked about keywords. I know those keywords play such an important role to get selected for any particular job role. Like because you have been on the recruiter side. So I want to know the insider story. Like, so usually you think recruiter do use any kind of application to shortlist the candidate or they do it manually. Do you have something to add on that?
Yeah, I have so much to talk about it because I know, Amrita, like you said, a lot of people don't know what happens once their application is submitted, right? A lot of us have heard about the ATS system. It's just not, it's application tracking system. That means in the backend when it gets crazier with thousands of applications, it's just a system which just gets all our applications in place, right? Now you touched upon those keywords. So now when I have 1,000 applications in the pool, I can't look on all of them individually, right? What I would do is I'll have some suggested keywords that I would look into and filter those applications with that. So, for an example, for financial analyst or for anything related to finance, I would put financial reporting, budgeting, forecasting, P&L, and I would put all of these keywords and find out resumes that then are shortlisted or have these keywords. I'll start looking at those resumes first, right? So, by no means I'm saying that I would not look at the rest of the resumes, but somehow, if you would come in the first, second, third search, then you have higher chances of getting the interview. You have higher chances of getting an opportunity to speak with a recruiter if you have all of those keywords. Now, I'm absolutely not rejecting all of you or like all the applicants without even looking at it because that's extremely unfair, right? But I might not go to that application, that pool of application, maybe to the next week until I've decided that maybe I found out the candidate that I needed, or maybe I've not, and then I'll go back for another search. Either ways, if you have the keywords, the ATS is just helping me to one, have these applications under organized manner, and for me to find these applications with the keywords and then, call out for those candidates.
Amazing. Good to know this information. I have one follow-up question on that. A
Yeah.
lot of candidates have reached out to me talking about, the methodology which you mentioned. So do you think there's any percentage when they're preparing for the resume that the keyword matches, say 90%, they have higher chances of getting selected?
I'm so glad that you asked. So yesterday we had a webinar and it was a very small group, 30 people. But then yesterday only somebody said that they got an offer. Now they've just got an offer and they got a call back even when their resume was only a 56% match, Amrita. And then if a resume is 56% match, we'll be like, oh, there's no point applying or let's change it in and out, right? That person still applied and they got the call and now they have the offer. So do not completely rely on these third party tools and applications who talk about your resume score. Because see now, the third party tools that we're talking about who gives us that score is an outsider to the company. They're not an integrated platform to the company's ATS system, or they don't know the recruiter. They don't know the hiring team. They don't know what role we're talking about, right? So they just pick up those keywords from the job description, but maybe they are losing out on important keywords like you were talking about the financial analyst, right? What if the third party system, they don't even know what the major keywords are for the financial analyst, right? So, short answer, I would not at all rely on these scores that are given by them. I would one rely on my expertise. If I'm a financial analyst, if I am a finance manager, I know a lot more than the third party application would know. And I would rely on my own intuitions with what the keywords would be. Does my resume match or not?
Okay, awesome. So I would say take use of these apps, but you know yourself better than anybody else.
Absolutely. Like, don't just change in and out just because a third party said it, just by looking at one job description that you gave them. So I wouldn't. Yeah. I mean, rely on them, but use them, but don't completely blindly rely on them.
Okay, great advice, Shreya. Do you think there's any effective way of tailoring resume? Like, if there's any quick tip you would like to share with us?
Yeah, I'm so glad that you asked, Amrita, because right now, so I'm doing like a 10-day challenge on my social media for job search. So it's called 10-day job search challenge. And one of the things that I would be talking about is how do you prepare a primary resume so that you don't have to tailor it for every role that you want to apply to, right? And then here, everybody really wants to take notes. But then I would say that find 5 top roles that you want to apply to that you think are a great fit with the industry, with the company that you want to work for, right? Now, from all these 5, find out the best keywords, find out the most used keywords, right? And out of now this pool of the keywords that you have found from all the 5 links, have at least 80% of these keywords in your resume, right? So 5 jobs, all the keywords, 80% of those keywords should be there in your resume. Now that would be your primary resume, right? It will include the skills, it will include the keywords, it'll have the right summary, it'll have the right description of the work that you have done. That should be your primary resume. Now, you should use that resume to apply to 80% or in fact 90% of the jobs that you're applying to, and only 20 to 30% or like 10 to 20% of these jobs that you'll be applying to should be then altered. Like your resume should be altered more. And then that can be jobs that you have a referral for or that you think are high risk. That means you know that you can do this in and out. And then you want to make sure that it's a perfect resume. So 80% of your jobs, you should not be tailoring your resume, only 20%, which are high risk. That means either you have a reference or you know that this is something that you can crack it in one go. You just want to make sure you have an opportunity to get shortlisted.
So, Shreya, what section of the resume you think is of sometime kind of overlooked and you think that really creates a huge impact?
I would say skill section because when people are making that, they're thinking that everything has been said in my professional experience. I've said everything in my education that these are the coursework that I have done. I'm not sure what and how should I design my skill section so the recruiters, the interviewers would have an eye on it, right? And I'll give a tip for all of us. One is make sure that everything that you've ever experienced and experimented and learned should be there in your skill section. That means even if you've used something for just one project, 3 months, or you've used something for one class, again, 3 months or 6 months. If you've used something for like one small internship project, can be 6 months, 3 months, or 1 month. All of those tools, applications, software, languages should be there in your skill section, right? Again, because we don't know what might be the keywords for these hiring managers and recruiters, correct? And then the second option would be as you're looking at different industries, sometimes, Amrita, different industries has different kind of keywords that they want and different type of tools that they would want, even from the financial analysts, right? They would have different kind of tools that they probably would want them to work on. I want you all to research that really well and put that all together. Another thing is if you all think that for all the skills that the job description is mentioning, I haven't done all of it. What do I do? Search for them. Google search and see if you've done anything similar to that, and then still put that out there, because then the recruiters still have an idea that A and B are pretty much similar. If the person has done A, they would be able to do B, and I still want to give them a chance, right? So I would say section is something this is overlooked, and this is how you can, utilize it a little bit more for your shortlists.
So now we'll shift a little bit more towards the job search process. Now we talked enough about resume building. So what advice would you give to someone who is entering the job market for the first time?
Okay, so when you say that they're entering the job market for the first time, are you saying that they're a fresher, they've never experienced corporate life, they've never experienced working in a company, or are you saying that they're entering now in the US market for the first time?
I would say they have never worked before, like they're completely fresher.
Okay, all right. So I think for freshers, if they are now entering in this market 2024, 2025, the first thing would definitely be to identify what is that they're offering. That means what are their skills and where do they fit the best, right? Because a lot of freshers, a lot of early career professionals that I speak with, they're like, we just want a job. We can do A, we can do B, we can do C, but then you know that you can do ABC. But then when you put all of that into the resume, recruiters don't know what do you want from them. What do you want from this company? What do you want from this role, right? So one, to have that role clarity, that what is that you're offering, and what are your USPs, right? Where does your talent lie? Where does your skill lie? That probably would be the first and the foremost thing. And I can't, and I, you'll hear me say a lot in this podcast that network, please network. Because if you're standing alone, you think you're a king and a queen. But when you stand in a group of people, then you understand there are a lot of other kings and queens, and you probably need to be better from them as well, with them as well, right? And then you won't be able to do it until you stand with a group of similar, like-minded people, and then you understand and learn with them. So this is what networking is. One, you understand where do you stand, how much more you need to learn, and then how and from where do you need to learn all of these things. So one, role clarity, and two, networking. Two most important things for any fresher.
Absolutely, I 100% agree with you. Unless you're not sure what you're looking for, I've interacted with so many folks and they say the same thing, like, I just want a job.
Yeah.
And it's important to have a clarity what, you're looking for. So yeah, that's a great tip.
Absolutely. And you speak with a lot of mentees as well, right? So you would definitely have an understanding that, and I get it, right? If I were a fresher and I have everything to offer, I would be just like, foot in the door, just let me be, right? Like, just give me one opportunity. Yes, but what is that one opportunity is what we're asking. Give us that clarity, and then there are many doors that would open.